Radha, Muralidhar, King!
I think you're very, your aura. It's your.
That's what they're doing. Welcome.
It's your sound effulgence. It's overwhelming.
Maybe put that mic, point that mic in this direction.
You want to do this?
Try it again, Ty. All right, here we go.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Shri Radha Muralidhar, King! Family reunion, King! All the different yatras, King! Welcome home, King! Oh, Hare Krishna, welcome everybody. It is a special weekend. We're gathered together. My grandparents, my grandpa on my father's side was one of 18 children during the Depression. So we had a family reunion, I think in the early 2000s, and I went to it and it was like, Louis' kids we had the maroon shirts, you know, and Chuck's kids had the blue shirts, and there was a sea of hundreds and hundreds of people you never met before. You're wondering, and then all of a sudden you get together, and there's a little awkwardness at the start. Hi, how are you? Okay, you're Louis' grandson. Okay, very good. And then you do that thing, and you do the song and dance, and then you have prashad. Hi, John. What's that? Maroon shirt. That's a maroon shirt over there. So you have prashad, and then all of a sudden, stories start coming out. Yeah, you know, did you know your grandpa did this? I didn't know that. And then the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. So welcome to the Radha Muralidhar family reunion. We all got different colored shirts, different colored costumes on, but we're all one big family, so I'm so grateful that everybody came. Some from very far away, some from very near, and somehow all of us are together serving their Lordship, Shri Radha Muralidhar, Shri Krishna. So, we would like to start telling this story through the different yatras. So what's going to happen is we're going to have the, we could say, yes, John? Hi, bud. We're gonna start some of what could be considered the esoteric pastimes of Shri Radha Muralidhar in Cleveland. The Cleveland Yatra is going to take us through some of these different stories and these different, intimate leelas that have taken place with Shri Radha Muralidhar. But we're going to start by a short, well, when I say short, I mean 10 minutes. So I know for some of us that attention span is low. But a short 10-minute film that is detailing some of the history, and it's going to lead us up to this very particular moment in time. So each and every one of us has had what somebody would say like X marks the spot, right? So everybody, I'm looking at Mother Malati, and she had an X marks the spot, and I'm just remembering Mother Malati bringing in a beautiful little deity to Srila Prabhupada and said, "Who's this?" Sorry, the Mother Malati's taking the deity. Brought him in. Okay. All right, this is good. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
You found the deity though?
She
found the deity.
She stole the deed.
Yeah, so all of us are gonna have a spot in our life where our devotional life just happened, it just took off. And there is this particular place, there's a particular time. And so therefore this video is gonna lead us up to a very particular moment at Govardhan Puja, when for the very first time in history, this incarnation, our mother Kamagiri met Shishirada Muralidhar. So let's let this video sort of take us on this little journey, and it's going to take us to Govardhan Puja, and then I'm going to turn it over, and Mother Kamagiri is going to shower us with some stories. Sound good?
So the first picture, that was the temple. Now there were some things missing because we used to have these really nice big lions as you came in. That was before the lions. And the devotee singing, his name is Bhutta Bhavana Prabhu. He was the first picture of the one guy you first saw.
This is the altar, original altar, before we got the string of songs.
Now coming up, there's a photo of Radha Muralidhar, where if you've never seen Muralidhar blue, you'll see it in this video. Look at that. So he shows his blue form sometimes.
Bhaktagopal Prabhu was the temple president at this time. Bhaktagopal Prabhu was the temple president at this time, in 1974. It's Jagannath Baladev, Lady Subhadra. I don't know what happened to them. This is, yes, the sign that Srila Prabhupada had in 1874. It used to have the 3 steps that led up to the seat. Huh? This is the installation day, but we don't know what the exact date was. Yes, Kirtan and install. I came in 1974 in Bharadam Puja. Yeah, they changed the eyes. No, Sukasugari, who was the wife of Bhattacharya, she used to make crowns and jewelry and some of the other devotees. And Sukasugari, she's no longer with us, but I remember she used to go out on Sankirtan, and she asked me to go to the airport once with her, and she was distributing offered carnations. So she would approach people and she would say, "Excuse me, sir." She said, "I'm collecting donations for these 2 little orphan children from India, and their names are Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar." And she would do really big. She did that to her last day. This is Govardhan Puja, 1974. This is actually the first day that Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar allowed me in the temple. Yeah, Nargashi was there, and Keelananda, so many devotees. That's me. With the white band. Radha wasn't there yet. Yeah, that's Bhakti Gopal. So this video was sent to me by the grace of Gopaji Das, who was a cook at that time. He's such an excellent cook. He has a restaurant in Michigan. He has a restaurant in Michigan, Gopaji Das. So he sent this video. So when I reached out to him and invited him to this program, he sent this video. And I had never seen it before. It's really wonderful. And you see this wonderful kirtan going on? I'll tell you about this day. Radhe Radhe. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar ki jai, Shri Radha Chandra ki jai, Shri Radha Mishra ki jai. Yeah. Oh, you have it? Oh, we don't have it. So. Namo Om Krishna Padaya Krishna Prasaya Kutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namaste Saraswati Devi Gopani Pujani Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Bhaskar Devi Satani Om Again Timothy Lucia Again Jana Shalakaya Chichu Naratami Tasmai Shri Guru Maha Vanchakapatu Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Eva Chapatidana Padane Yo Vaishnavi Namaha. So this story of the journey that I was allowed
Haribo!
So this story is all due to the mercy of all my God brothers and God sisters and their friends who were coming at the time, because I was lost in darkness, and I was not happy, and all of my friends would ask me, what will it take to make you happy? And I didn't know. I would say, well, I don't know what will make me happy, but I know what doesn't make me happy, and I can name all the things that didn't make me happy. So I was working and partying and working, but there was absolutely no satisfaction in my heart for that. So one day I was walking, so we lived right next door to Lakeview Cemetery. Like, the cemetery back entrance was like literally right next door. And so then I would walk the front portion of the walk, and I used to walk a lot. I don't do it so much now because physically I can't do it, but I was just feeling so desperate. And I looked up and I said, Lord, there has to be more to life than this. Working and partying and working, it's like, there's no satisfaction. So I was working at a 7-Eleven Corporation sweet shop in Severance Center in the mall there in Cleveland, on Mayfield. It's still there, but it's a little different, but the store is not there anymore. And so I was working there, and then one day, I don't see the picture, but this devotee came in, which I didn't know who he was, and his name was Tony, but he wasn't an active devotee per se, because he wasn't following everything perfectly. But he came in and he started talking to me, and then we formed a respectful relationship. I won't go into all the details because you don't need to know all that. But anyway, so Krishna has his way of throwing out his hook, and he gets you. And then he started reeling you in, sometimes real fast, and sometimes real slow, you know. So Taliban, there's a picture of him back there somewhere, but he was the hook. And so we started respectfully dating. And then he would come to my house on Sunday, and at 4:30 he would say, "I'll be back, I'm going to the feast." I was like, okay. Now, prior to that, I have to go back a little bit. I had gone to his apartment, and he had absolutely no furniture, no pictures, he just had one stereo. But he was a musician, so he was playing his saxophone. And whatever he was feeling, you know, I was like in awe, you know, like, wow, you know. So then, I was more of an introverted kind of person, so I never asked questions, but I was an observer. And so, but this particular day, he was playing his music, and this feeling came over me, and it was like so overwhelming that I had to express it. And I said, you know, I feel like I'm supposed to be learning something right now. It's something I'm supposed to know. And so he went into his room, and he came back out, and he said, I have this book. He said, but you have to promise me 3 things before I give it to you. So now I'm like, what's these 3 things? I'm gonna promise to get this book. He didn't even say what kind of book it was, I didn't ask. And so I said, okay, what are the 3 things? He said, first, you have to promise me that you'll never put this book on the floor. I said, oh, I can do that, you know? And then he said, secondly, you have to promise me that you'll never take this book in the bathroom. I said, I don't read in the bathroom anyway, I can do that. And then he said, lastly, you have to promise me that you'll never eat while reading this book. And I said, I can do that. And so he gave me the book. He didn't tell me what kind of book it was. I didn't ask, you know, but I took the book and I went home and I was so excited. Now, all the devotees here who are in male bodies, please forgive me, you know, but I have to say this. At this particular time, I thought men were the most horrible creatures on the planet. I did. So, when I took the book home, and I did like this, and it opened up to the most beautiful face of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I fell in love for the first time in my life because I said, this is the most beautiful man I've ever laid eyes on. And I still feel like that today. So then, you know, after some time, because I couldn't stop looking at him, then I went to the first story. Because I wasn't really an avid reader, you know, so I didn't go through all the, you know, introduction, you know, all that. I didn't go through all that. I just went to the first story. And I'm kind of really like a naive kind of person. So I thought it was all English. And I had never experienced a book that had 2 languages in the same book, you know. So looking at it, I was like, And I was trying to use the English way of breaking the words down. I was like, I couldn't do it. I said, okay, I gotta go back. Now, back then, in 1974, there was no computers, there was no Google, and there was no, you know, no way that you can push a button and find out the answer. So you had to actually do the work yourself. You had to investigate. So I said, I have to go see if he had any encyclopedias so that I could figure out these words so I could read this book. So I went back the next day. I opened the door and I said, you know, that book you gave me, I was trying to read it, but I have these words in there that I can't figure out. I said, do you have any encyclopedias? And he said, you don't need an encyclopedia. He said, if you really, really, really want to read that book? He said, just keep trying. He said, and you'll be able to read it. And I said, okay. He said, and if you get to a word that you can't figure out, just skip and go to the next one. So I said, okay. So like he said, because I really, really, really wanted to read the book, I was able to read it. But I didn't know it was a book about God. I didn't know for a long time that it was a book about God, you know. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you know. It was the Krishna book he gave me, you know. So but I just love the stories. And so I was reading, everywhere I went I had that Krishna book with me, so I was reading those stories, you know. So then, fast forward when we had respectfully started dating and he was going to the feast. So the first day, it's first Sunday, I'm going to the feast, I'll be back. I said, okay. So when he came back, he smelled different. And you know, if you're in an environment and you smell a smell that you've never, ever smelled before, and it comes in your space, you smell it, and you notice it, and you say, so I didn't say anything outwardly, but inward, I was like, oh, he smelled different. So then the next week, he came, and he said, I'll be back, I'm going to the feast, same time, same place, same station. I was like, okay. So then the third week came. He says, I'll be back, I'm going to the feast. I said, wait a minute. I said, where's this feast? I said, can I go? He said, yeah, but he still didn't tell me what it was. And he said, yeah, come on, let's go. So, you know, I got in the car and we drove all the way from Lakeview and Euclid to 15720 Euclid Avenue. He didn't say anything the whole ride. I didn't ask any questions the whole ride. And then we pull up in front of that beautiful building that you see, and it had a big sign on a long pole that said, Hare Krishna Temple. That didn't mean anything to me. You know, I still didn't know it was like a place of worship. I didn't know because I'm just real simple, you know. So then when we got in front of the temple, he stopped and he turned to me and he said, I can't teach you anything. He said, everything you learn, you have to learn on your own. He said, so when we go in, he said, just watch and do what everybody else is doing. I said, okay. Now, I didn't know he was going to disappear on me. And so we walked in, go in the door, and he disappeared. He just left me by myself. There's a lot of those stories too, but anyway. I was like, and I'm not going to say anything to anybody, you know. He says, okay, I'm just going to do what he said. I'm going to watch what everybody does. I'm just going to do what they do. So it took me a little time to gather up my courage to do it, you know. So they would come in, and so when you walk through the temple doors, straight ahead in the foyer was the temple room doors, these big, beautiful wooden doors, and then they had stained glass with the peacock. And then there was a room to the left, and then there was a room to the right, and then on the right there were stairs that go downstairs, and then there were steps that go upstairs. So on the room, the little wall that divided the room on the left, there was a water dispenser, and there was a sign that said, please wash your feet. And it had like a plastic dishpan. So they would come in, wash their feet, they would knock on the door, ring the bell, bow down, go in and close the door behind. Now that kirtan that I mentioned on the video, they were having this rip-roaring kirtan that I didn't hear any sound outside the temple room. I heard absolutely nothing, so you know, I didn't know what was going on in there. So it took me a minute to gather up my courage to do it. So then finally I did it. I said, okay. Oh, before that, like some people, because normally the people would come in and they were just dressed like me, just what I was used to seeing. And then every now and then somebody would come and they would go upstairs. But when they came down, they looked different. You know, because, sorry, Yogi, Sika, Tilak. And I was like, I'm not going upstairs. I don't know what they do up there. So I'm not going to go up there. I'm just going to do this simple thing right here. You know? So I went and knocked on the door, rang the bell. Bowed down and I said, well, first I washed my feet. Knocked on the door, rang the bell, bowed down and I said, well, Lord, I couldn't hear what they were saying when they bowed down, so whatever it is, you have to forgive me, but I'm going to go through these doors. So I went through the doors, and at that time, they used to burn the frankincense and myrrh on the cones, the charcoal. So when you walked in the temple room, it was just, it was like a cloud of incense smoke, and it grabbed me and pulled me in. And they were just like, I had this rip-roaring kirtan that I didn't hear outside the doors. And I was like, wow, this is like another world. So they were dancing. So, I like to dance, and they were playing the drums. I love drums, so I started dancing. And so, I was just like so happy. I said, wow, this is like another world here. And then after some time, because you know how they do the kirtan, you have the circle. You have to get to the circle to see what's inside the circle, And when the circle dispersed, they had a table, and it was the Govardhan Hill with the little bread cows and the broccoli trees, and all the sweets, decorating the hill. And so my first day, the Radha Muralidhar allowed me entrance in Srila Prabhupada by his mercy was Govardhan Puja in 1974. So I don't want to keep speaking because I'm not going to be able to carry on because, I literally owe everything, my life, to all of these devotees and all of you, because without your mercy, I could not exist, because my kids, I wanted to have a big family, Initially, I said I wanted to have 10 children. But when Govinda came, by the mercy of His Holiness Radha Swami, we had come to Columbus. No, not like that. I was expecting, and I knew it was a boy. And so he was coming downstairs, and I was coming up. And I asked him if he would name the child that I was carrying. I said, it's a boy. Could you please name him? And so he asked me for all the names of my children, so from the first down to the last. And then he thought for a moment and he said, call him Govinda. So when it was time for me to give birth to Govinda, when he was making his entrance, I said, Lord Govinda. Now, prior to this, I had 7 children. But it didn't feel like I had a lot of kids. But when Govinda came, it was like Krishna let the shade up, and I was like, wow, I got a lot of kids. There's so many stories, but I'm not going to take time because it's, the program. But Radha Muralidhar, Srila Prabhupada, they took care of my children, because, you have service and, sometimes devotees were scarce, so, you didn't really have a lot of assistance. So I would go to them and I said, you have to watch them because I got to do my service. And they did, they watched them, They're still watching them, I'm forever indebted to Radha Muralidhar, Jyoti Radha Muralidhar, Gaura Chandra, Shiva Rahamashinga, and eternally Shiva. And all of you, thank you so much. From everything that I have, I owe it all to you. Hare Krishna.
Madhuri Devi ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Continue with some of the Cleveland pastimes. Mother Malati, can you share a few words for us?
I actually didn't meet them in Cleveland.
Okay, please tell us.
that was happening when I was out of the country, because we went to UK. But there is a similarity, there's something that I share in my life with their appearance, which was apparently they neglected to ask through the Prabhupada. And the Didis came. I don't know, I hope somebody will tell how that happened, but there is a letter from Prabhupada who was obviously surprised and told them that they should have 10 or 12 Brahmins at least, but he did name them. Muralidhar. And why I say I share because later on, I was in Europe, based in Holland, and I was doing traveling Kirtan with ladies, and at that time it was very revolutionary that a lady party was out on the road. And we came back and I told the temple president, if you let us collect next week, I'll go to India and we'll get Radha Krishna Divis. And somehow the temple president got bewildered and agreed. And not only did that happen, I brought back Lalita Vishaka as well. And then I convinced them to let me go to Italy, and I designed an altar and went to Italy to the quarries, and so we had this whole show. And on the way back to from Italy, I stopped in Paris. The train went through Paris, and I went there. And the GBC, who was also our GBC, who also hadn't been consulted, like no blessings were at the point here. And and he said, "What do you?" He asked me what I was doing, and so I told him. And he was a little shocked, but then he goes, "Oh, now we'll have more Didis at Hansadutta." So again, there was a little lack of devotional input there, years. So the Didis were really beautifully installed. And at that same installation, my daughter had sat for a fire ceremony. She was initiated by Prabhupada. But the point is, years later, after Prabhupada's departure, there was a letter that I read to Bhagwan chastising him for this lack of protocol, and he goes, and Malati should have known better. So, no, this is serious. As the senior devotees, we carry a burden to represent Srila Prabhupada. All of you who have joined this mission, you have a burden. But it's a beautiful burden to represent Srila Prabhupada. And when you don't do that, things will not be auspicious as you might want them to be. So, of course, things were rectified, obviously. But something to think about going into the future, and a little part of the history.
Everybody knows who this is. But this is Nityodita Das, a wonderful disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who gave his life. I don't know when he joined, but he's always, always, always inspiring the hearts of everyone. All he has to do is really just walk into the room, and you just completely feel inspired.
Take that mic away from
But he was also in Cleveland with us. He didn't live in Cleveland, but Vrindavan was like, that. Yeah.
Nityodita Prabhu ki.
Namaste Saraswati Devi Bhavani Pracharane Namaste Saraswati Devi
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura. Hare Krishna
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Vancha Kalpatrivasya Kripa Sindhu Vijaya Patitan Pavadilyo Vaishnadeyo Namaha. Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar Ki
Jai.
This is such a auspicious gathering and a very wonderful opportunity to take darshan and to be in the presence of my god brothers and god sisters and god nephews and nieces and everyone else. We are dependent on each other in a big way because spiritual life is a progression. At least it's supposed to be progressive, and we we need each other. The first experience that I had with deities was in Ann Arbor in 1974. I went to the Sunday feast. I was a long-haired hippie living in the country. I ate so much prasadam that I laid down. And my feet were pointing toward the Panchatattva painting. And one devotee very mercifully started chastising me. You are offending the deities. So I had no idea what he was talking about because all I saw was a painting. So, you know, we come covered over. All I saw was a painting. Then, by Krishna's arrangement, I went with my friends, we went to visit New Vrindavan. And I didn't plan on being a devotee. I just went because it was a nice farm. And I wanted to live on the farm and live in the country. And so the first day I went into the temple room and I looked and it was just like a big glaring, blurry, kind of ecstatic flowers, paraphernalia, everything. And somebody said, "How do you like the deities?" I didn't know what they were talking about because I couldn't. Everything was so beautiful, everything, and I didn't really focus on the deities, you know. And after a few days there, the devotees started preaching to me, or should I say, New Vrindavan style preaching. They said, "Pastor Carlos, you should just stay here and give your life to Radha and Chandra." I said, "Who?" That was their whole. That was their very warm, loving way of trying to get me to stay. But I still hadn't really understood Krishna in his Archa Vigraha because I didn't have a good association, or didn't have an opportunity to experience seva, because it is by seva that Krishna reveals himself. And that, so that's explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, only by devotional service can I be known, standing before you in the form of Radha and Chandra. So then a few days went by and the devotee said, "Oh, you're a young man and you're not married, you should go to the brahmachari farm." So I went up to the brahmachari farm. and there the devotees were talking about another name for a god. Talking about Radha Vrindavan Nath. So they were the center and of the lives of the devotees that were living up there. It's 30 brahmacharis in a small farmhouse and a few cabins, and everything. Well, we had, a great pujari. Everything depends on the pujari. In the brahmachari farm, we had a very nice pujari. Radhanath Das Brahmachari at that time. He was a pujari, and but he had a whole lot of things that needed to be done. And you've heard, I'm sure, how his day was completely full. From 2 o'clock in the morning, rising, because the regulation was before you touch the deity, see the deity, call the deity, 16 rounds. And Mangalarti at the Brahmachari farm was at 4 in the morning. So then waking the deities, he was in charge of all the procedures. But he understood a very important principle of deity worship, which is that try to engage others in serving the deity. So there was a group of brahmacharis, and you can imagine, we ate a lot, we worked a lot, we froze a lot, and we slept whenever it wasn't time to sleep. Like during Bhagavatam class, or when we're driving in a vehicle, which there was only one vehicle at the time when I joined. But especially during Bhagavatam class, we tended to sleep as much as possible in order to catch up. But that was not allowed in the Brahmachari ashram, but there was no way we could not sleep unless we had something to do. Out comes Radhanath Das Brahmachari with the brass, the silver, the Radharani's hair. These little deities, And I, somehow or another, I had the great fortune of receiving a basket, or maybe it was just a box, a woven box or something, and in it there was all kinds of cloths and little jewels, what I thought would be like discarded stuff. But then every morning, out of the pujari room would come Krishna's cane. Krishna's cane was just a wooden stick, this tall. But my service during class to stay awake and to serve the deity was to decorate that cane, and with ribbons and little jewels and this and that, and whatever, sometimes flowers if we had it, but it wasn't, I joined in the winter, so there was no flowers. But so then what happened was I started, really meditating on the deities to see how my offering looked, the cane, the Krishna. But the whole thing, it transformed, because what happened was Krishna was revealing his beauty. Krishna was revealing his glories. So the combination of service, revelation, and then hearing, we had a part of the class was a short clip of Prabhupada speaking, and then the tape recorder, then we shut the tape recorder up, and then the person running the class would say, okay, what did Prabhupada say? Does anybody remember one thing Prabhupada said? Of course, then we had the brahmacharis giving class. So, reading Krishna book every night. But then, that also came into play. One of the sweet things I got to do growing up in Krishna consciousness was every night Radhanath would be singing serenade to the deities. He'd do the artik or read the artik, and then when it's time for rest, the curtains would open for the last darshan, and with the Pradanga would be singing these beautiful bhajans. And then, I started hearing these same bhajans. There was a cassette of Achyutananda, songs of the Vaishnavacharya. I heard that, and then I was live and in color with Radha. So I would try to glorify it. Oh, you sing so wonderfully. And he had a songbook, and so one thing he would ask me would say, what is your favorite bhajan? Remember, I'm not initiated or anything. I said, what is your favorite bhajan? He'd ask me. So I would pick one out of the book, that I haven't heard, and he would sing that to Radha Vrindavan. And I tried to glorify him. Yeah, I really like your singing. He goes, I'm just an imitation of Chutananda Swami. So he was teaching me humility, which I never learned, but I mean, he wouldn't, take my praise so organically, so to speak. But, so the whole day, everyone started talking about, Krishna's Radha Vrindavana's boga, milking their cows, building a palace for their pure devotee, working in their garden, so many things. Everything just became centric, deity-centric, and that's what's absolutely necessary for Krishna consciousness, for the neophyte, for the middle of the roader, Madhyam Adhikari, but also for the Uttama Adhikari. All of our acharyas, their Ishtadevs, just would absorb them, and they would think everything they're doing is for them. So this is what Krishna consciousness is. It starts in the deities and engaging others. So anybody that's engaging in some deity service, it should never be seen as a burden. It should always be seen as an opportunity to love Krishna, to have Krishna in your life. So then, what happened was, we were living in Brahmachari, and I was walking across the valley every day to go and serve Prabhupada's construction crew. And one day, the whole community realized that Sudanu had gone to India, and he had contacted hepatitis. He cooked a feast for everyone. He cooked a great feast for everyone that weekend, but nobody knew that he somehow had contact with hepatitis or something. But anyway, the whole community got hepatitis, and that was a real tough time. But by Krishna's mercy, I got hepatitis the same day Radha got hepatitis, and we got quarantined together in a trailer at Bahulaban. We were not allowed to go up to Vrindavan, and we were not allowed to go see Radha Vrindavan Chandra at Bahulaban. We just stayed in the trailer together, listening to Prabhupada chanting Shikshastika prayers, and we didn't have any mridanga or kartals or anything, but we did Mangalartik every day with the pans and the spoons that we had. Because we were on a special diet. We could not eat any regular prasad. We could only eat mung, water, and rice with no salt or seasoning or butter or anything. And of course that was austere enough, but then to have Tapapunj cooking it. He was not famous in Vrindavan for being a cook. He could grow very nice, but not cook. But yeah, he decided, okay, I'm going to take a shortcut to cook. To make these devotees mung water, I'm just going to, instead of cooking the mung beans whole and letting the nourishment go in, I'm going to grind them up into flour and to throw it in the water, be instant mung. So anyway, it was very austere, but the amazing thing is, it was Krishna Prasadam. After we felt tortured a little bit in the beginning, we started relishing. So I had hepatitis, and I was like one of the main workers at the at the palace, and I didn't have any strength. So I had hepatitis, and I couldn't go back to serving at the palace, so they said, you're only good for going to Cleveland to preach to college students or something where you don't have to lift up heavy cement bags. And when they said college preaching, the only experience I had with college preaching was leaving New Vrindavan one time with Taru and a few devotees in a van. We were going to University of West Virginia or something, and the van was filled with ladus. So when they told me, and the van broke down, and we were bhaktas, and so we had unbelievable amounts of access to the ladus. So whenever everybody said, I'm going to college preach, I was thinking ladus, I don't know, but when we joined, we were really like completely eating so much. So and anytime you had an opportunity to like bust through the feast limits, so we didn't like. So somehow, I got sent to Cleveland. I got sent to Cleveland to go college preaching. What's the next day? I find myself in downtown Cleveland, giving back to Godhead magazines to people in a mad rush to get on some kind of train or something when I was downtown, And I said, okay, got to preach. So one guy comes up and says, yeah, I'm really interested. I said, here, this is a book about love of God. He goes, oh yeah, read it. And then, but then he stopped and said, this is not about Jesus. And he ripped the magazine right in my face, And I'm thinking, I'm on the farm, with the roadies. I gotta go back. That's all I was thinking. I gotta go back to New Vrindavan, I'm always thinking like that. Right now I'm thinking. But, so then, no college preaching. But the amazing thing is, because I think it might have been maybe your mother or somebody, I don't know, because whoever it was, but what happened was, we gave, this is a completely different story, but when you told that story, I was flashing on that. We had these, what was it called, Perfection of Yoga books, and so we got some of those, and really, I didn't know how to distribute books at all, but I went to the parking lot, and basically the nicest people were in Cleveland that I would always approach in the parking lots in the supermarket was these Black Matajis. They were very pious and they're very gentle, and they always gave a quarter. So I went, and one day I had this Perfection of Yoga, and I gave it to this lady that was in the car. There was no, it didn't have to really be sophisticated. They're simple like you, very simple people, very big-hearted, and I gave her the book, and she pulls out a quarter, and then she looks on the back cover, and she sees the picture of Prabhupada, and she said, this is the most beautiful man I have ever seen in my life. So I was flashing on that story. So Cleveland was tough, but of course, we would come home from Sankirtan and then we had the darshan of Radha and Muralidhar. That was very refreshing after trying to distribute books all day in a very degraded city, Said that my temples are not in Cleveland, Los Angeles, New York. The temple, you're in Vaikuntha, you can feel that. Because Krishna's present very prominently. And so the temple president there, Arjit at the time, very fired up, very emotional, wanting to do everything for Radha Muralidhar, buy different, he would make things, how he was. And he was talking, we got to do this for Radha Muralidhar, we got to do this for Radha Muralidhar. And I became I became a little attached to them, And, but he was like really encouraging me. Yeah, you should give your life to Radha Muralidhar. Give your life to Radha Muralidhar. Stay in Cleveland. You know? So I'm thinking on one hand, yeah, okay, Radha Muralidhar. That's Krishna. I love, beautiful. But I was thinking about, Radha Vidavanath and Radha Vidavachandra. But anyway, so, what happened was, one day, Kirtan was a leading New Vrindavan at the time. He calls, and nobody ever got phone calls in those days hardly, but he called and asked for me. No one ever, I had been in the movement 2 years, and I didn't get a single call from anyone. So I'm in Cleveland, and he calls, and the president was saying, hey, listen, he's gonna tell you something, like, go somewhere. You tell him you love Radha Muralidhar and you don't want to leave. So I'm on the phone, yes. Oh, Maharaj, Hare Krishna. I want you to go to Bloomington and help my godbrother, Brishakami Prabhu, do a preaching center there. I said, oh, but I love Radha Muralidhar and I want to stay here in Cleveland. The temple president was sitting right next to me. I had to play both games. He said, oh yeah? Well, who do you think you are? He said, I said, I'm a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He said, yes. And doing service under who? I said, Maharaj, I'm doing service under you. He said, yes, you have to go to Bloomington. So that's that. Then I went to Bloomington the next day and spent 9 months there, helping with the preaching center in Bloomington. And then I went, huh? Harinam in Cleveland, that was when I came back, not when I was there. So what happened was, actually, I skipped one part, but yeah, during that time in Cleveland, I went back to New Vrindavan because Prabhupada was coming in June or July of 1976. And so at that time, I took second initiation. I had been first initiated when I was in New Vrindavan. I took second initiation in 1976. And so I was part of the Cleveland Yatra at that time. So I went back to Cleveland and I got trained up to dress Radha Muralidhar. So they were the first deities I actually was able to dress. Shri Shri Radha Muralidhar ki jai! So I don't know about this schedule that you guys have, but that's part one. I don't know. I think it's if I run out of part, if I go to part two, I have nothing else. I see all these Radha Muralidhar on this schedule. I don't know. Should I say? Should I go for more, or should I just hold it for the next evening program? Huh? Shall I hold it back?
People probably want to hear you speak later on.
What's that?
People probably want to hear you speak later on.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I think I have the order. See, I'm only here because they ordered me to come. But I wanted to serve all of you some little stories. But yeah, part two is New Vrindavan Radha Muralidhar pastimes, and then part three is New York, Brooklyn, Greenfield. Okay, so we're Cleveland. Do no more Cleveland devotees here?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to speak something, please, and then I can tell New Vrindavan later. Okay, all right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So this is Mother Jayashree. The first time I had an opportunity to be in her presence was when she lived in Detroit. And we had gone down there for a program. And she and a wonderful family. And such a sweet example of unending, uninterrupted loving service to whatever manifestation that the Lord manifests is forming, from Detroit, Radha Kunjantari, Radha Muralidhar, Vrindavan, Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Shri Krishna Balaram, Radha Shama Sundar in Puerto Rico. She also joined us in Puerto Rico. Chota Radha Muralidhar was there as well. But she's an amazing, amazing mother. She does so much wonderful service. And I've been trying to convince her to come to Columbus and share with the devotees in Columbus, but she's getting a little closer to getting there, even though she's, it's like you can be so close, but yet so far. So I'm trying to pull her to Columbus so that she can enliven the hearts of all the devotees by her wonderful association.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, when we first started years ago, I met Srila Prabhupada in Hawaii, and there was only a few of us. Balabhadra had come, of course, Govinda Dasi and Kursindar, and Prabhupada was there, and by Krishna's very kind mercy, Srila Prabhupada was the first person in the Krishna movement. Krishna sent me there. Prabhupada was standing at the doorway telling us to come up. There was no Hare Krishna in Hawaii at the time. First time they'd ever left Prabhupada alone. But I went to a bakery, there was a sign. I told my friend, take me to that address. We drove up, and Prabhupada somehow or other was outside, as if he was waiting for us. So I went in, and it's a long, really long, wonderful story. But I had just prayed, my dear Lord, if you're here, please send me to somebody who knows you. And then I ended up, and Srila Prabhupada was there, and he was talking about God. And he just answered all of my questions, but I didn't ask him anything. In the course of this conversation, I could see him looking into my heart and into my mind, and he knew exactly who I was, what I needed to hear, and I knew who he was. I knew he was Krishna's son. I didn't know Krishna at that time. I knew he was God's servant. He was, you had to offer your head at his feet without even knowing what that was. You just automatically did that. Now I was just a hippie. And, I moved into the temple shortly after that by Govinda Dasi's grace, because if you're in the presence of someone like Srila Prabhupada, he's so in Krishna's service. Prabhupada brings the spiritual world into your existence, and you know who he is. And when he goes away, you forget. It's like you get covered by Maya. You don't remember that because it's so extraordinary. It's just something you've never felt before. So when I went home, it was like, you get covered over. But Govinda Dasi kindly would call me. Okay, my husband's going to come pick you up. Oh, and then a little while later, why did you move into the temple? Sure, okay. But Krishna is so clever and so precise. I was living with an old woman who was 40 years old. I was renting a room from her, and one day a poster came in the mail. She opened it up, and there was this blue boy. It's like, okay, a blue boy. He was sitting with a calf and a deer, and he said, "Dear Mom, I've just been initiated. My name is Munibunda. Please chant Hare Krishna." But we had no idea what that meant. And then I met Prabhupada right after that. It was like Krishna set me up. He set me up amazingly to follow all the principles I mean, who would have thought? An American youth, you know, I'd been a hippie for like 2 years, all of a sudden, one thing after another. The meat was like, oh, wow, what am I doing this for? Intoxication, you just like, and then Krishna sets me up with this woman, and then there I am at Prabhupada's feet. It's like, Krishna has his way. But I wanted that. I wanted God. And Krishna, like the Bible says, knock and the door will be open. So I did service in Hawaii for many years. I was sent to Los Angeles to get married. I didn't want to get married. Actually, the first week I was at the temple in Los Angeles, 9 men went to the temple president to marry me. And I didn't want to get married. Somehow or other, they sent me to be the head pujari in San Francisco. I was the head pujari in San Francisco with Jayananda. It was like really amazing. And then I was too attractive to be, although I would never, you know, I was like, whoa, covered my head. There was like 50 brahmacharis, never looked at them, never talked to them. But I was too attractive to stay there. So they sent, so Kesava sent me off back to LA. It's like, well, what did I do? I wanted to do this service. It's like I didn't do anything wrong. So there I am, back in LA, and then I get a letter from Gursindar to come back to Hawaii to marry Balabhadra. And then something else unusual. Anyway, this whole story goes on. So when we installed the Panchatattva in Hawaii, I ended up being the first head pujari. And I'll have you know, I'm famous. I'm famous. I did the first arti to the first Tulsi plants that Govinda Dasi grew with a sparkler. That's my claim to fame. Actually, I look around and I see these devotees, God brothers and God sisters, and all the other devotees. I mean, I'm amazed by what great everybody is. But they're doing such great things in this world, and I feel like this like little fig. It's like, Prabhupada, I'm trying. I haven't done anything yet. Maybe I'll do something someday. I'm trying. So anyway, I got married. I had children, and I ended up, by Krishna's arrangement, I hope. It's Krishna's, not my own foolishness, but Krishna, what does Krishna say? He carries what you lack, preserves what you have, and carries what you lack. So my mistakes, Krishna always seems to pick me up. So there I ended up in New Vrindavan with my children, and still there. And Krishna's tolerated me for so long. But I got really, really sick at a certain time, and I went to Sandusky, Ohio, to my parents-in-law, and then we went to Cleveland. And it took me a long time to get better, but during those 2 years that we were there, I was able to serve the very sweetest deities of Radha Muralidhar. And I don't remember a lot about it. I remember dressing them, I remember the stained glass behind them, Kamagiri and I, and Madan and Kashanki, and my Abai, who's now 43, was only like 3 years old, so it was like 85 that I was there, something like that. But it was just wonderful, and Tapa Punj was there. We started the Food for Life. We used to cook. There was a recipe book. I think Kamagiri probably put it together. Chili for like 100 people, cornbread, coleslaw. It was stuff, it was not like the regular Hare Krishna cuisine. It was stuff that the people would actually eat. You know? I mean, if you gave them dal rice and chapatis, they would throw it away. They didn't want it. So, Tapa Punj and with Mother Kamagiri, we were on East Cleveland. No?
The Food for Life program was in, it was like in one of the,
Where was?
it was in the garden.
But it's the same thing in New Vrindavan. If we tried tried to do Food for Life there in West Virginia, and they didn't want the devotee cuisine. They wanted stuff they recognized. Yeah, like macaroni and cheese, salad, bread. Anyway, so Radha Muralidhar, I always thought they were the most sweet and beautiful in so many ways, and they're so petite compared to Radha Vrindavan Chandra are bigger. But somehow or other they brought me there. They must have had some reason, because it was wonderful. It was different. New Vrindavan is like a big machine. You know, it's become very, like 65,000 visitors a year. It's just really active. But Cleveland was quiet, and I was fortunately able to get better. And then they came to New Vrindavan, and they lived up in Old Vrindavan on the altar at Kirtanananda's house. And we would go up and have wonderful programs up there with them. And then they ended up in New York at a Deutsches place. Greenpoint. Brooklyn. And then they bought this building. And they... I kind of remembered that.
Part two.
All right, so I guess you're gonna have to hear about part two. But this was bought by Kirtanananda, and it was renovated by Bhokta, and the whole thing with the lift, the elevator and stuff. And then it got given to Radhanath Maharaj, who's done a fantastic job, just amazing. The wonderful things that you guys are doing here are so inspiring and so, for the times, you know. It's not just Hare Krishna, it's yoga, and it's a great Ayurvedic restaurant, and it's just so perfect for the place and the time. So I guess that's it for me. All glories to Radha Muralidhar, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees, without which we would not make very much progress. Most important.
Jai Shri Devi Ki. Jai. We're still on part one. Anybody left that would like to share? I'm looking right at you.
Haribo.
You ready? Would you like to introduce?
Well, this is Radha Vijay, formerly known as Radha Madan Mohan. And I've known this personality from her first breath. Yeah, before that. But so I remember before I got to know her at any time, but you know, in Cleveland, I didn't never really go any place outside of Cleveland, and I went to New Vrindavan, but it was just New Vrindavan in Cleveland. And so, you know, like one devotee asked me, he said, "Do you remember the festival days from the past?" I said, "Every day was a festival. Whenever they opened the curtain for darshan, you know, for the morning program, morning darshan, it was like breathtaking festival to see the Lord dressed so beautifully. So every day is a festival in Krishna consciousness." And so devotees would travel and come to Cleveland. So I remember one time, all I knew was Jaya Radha Muralidhar, Radha Muralidhar Radhe. That was all I knew. But then, I don't know who the devotee was, but this devotee came through Cleveland, and he said, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radha. I had never heard that before. And I was like, wow. I was like, wow. If I ever have another child, I'm going to name it Radha Madan Mohan. And so then, that's when she came, you know. Radha Madan Mohan, that's how she got her name. And she has some pastimes to share that I won't speak about, but you know, she's one of the little people that was taken care of by Sri Radha Muralidhar. And I'm gonna let her share. And I hope she tells some of the good stories.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Kutale Srimate Radha Swami Tinamale. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Kutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamale. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sangivadi Bhaksanchiti Satarine. Vanchikopa Trivishta Kripasan Vidaveta Pitanam Bhavamedyo Vaishnavi Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm a little nervous. My heart is pounding right now. I am very happy to be here today. I don't like speaking much because my thoughts and my feelings are very real, and I get very emotional, whether it's happy, sad, joyous, whatever the emotion is, I get emotional about talking. So sometimes it's a little difficult for me to speak, but I also learn how to speak through those emotions, so bear with me. And also, I'm in the presence of people that I've been watching for over almost 50 years. I have my wonderful spiritual master here, Mati Prabhu, I've known for all this time, Mother Jayashri Nityadita. Like when I look at these spaces, I was like, you know, this high, and I remember these spaces from that small. So I've been watching and observing these great souls for a long time. I'm happy you guys are here. Because also there's a lot of people that aren't here anymore also. So, you know, just being around and witnessing both sides, it's a lot. Okay, Krishna, help me. So the last time I was in New York speaking in front of wonderful devotees and all the great souls, I spoke past times about my relationship with Muralidhar in specific. But this time, this story is a lot more intimate. It happened. It's between me and Radharani. I think there's only a couple people that know these pastimes, maybe like one or two, but I never talk about this stuff. And just to give a, what's the word? Like a warning sign. Yes, one of those, a disclaimer. I'm probably a little crazy, you know. No, I'm self-diagnosing myself right now. I don't know if I have psychosis. A little bit, okay, not just said a little bit. I don't know if it's just being wrapped up in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes where you have become that person that has been able to see the magic, because that's what I call it. A lot. So that's another reason why I don't normally speak about a lot of things that happen in my life, because people are like, she crazy as hell. That probably didn't happen to her, but nobody can tell me what happened to me, right? So I'm going to share. So in my mind, in my thoughts, in my witnessing, this is what I've experienced. So whether it sounds crazy or whether it sounds like, what world did you live on? What planet did you come from? I don't know. But maybe they know better than I know. So like I said, this time we're going to go into the pastimes between me and Radharani because we used to have beef. Now, I have to say it this way because that's what it was. So when I was, okay, So stay with me. I'm going to try and go from one point to the next to wrap it all up. So you'll get to stay with me. So, earlier when Mata was speaking about how Krishna hooks you, or how you come into spiritual life, or however that happens, I have those core memories on how certain things happen to me, for me to live my life a certain way, or do things a certain way, or follow people a certain way because of those incidents. So my spiritual life, well, I don't know when it started, but what happened to me when I was younger. Now, mind you, if you see the size of Muralidhar, they're probably like maybe the size of a 3-year-old. So I'll say I probably was about 4 or 5 because I was a touch taller than the deities, like just a little bit. So I had to be 4 or 5. So, but my memory goes way back. So back in Cleveland. Oh wait, I gotta give you a little snippet of what Mata said. She had the deities watching me. So I was one of the only kids in Cleveland at the time, and okay, if there's any people here that work for children's services, like, don't come for my mom. I have to put that out there and make a disclaimer also. These are very transcendental pastimes. Right. Right. So, exactly. Thanks, Ananta. I need you to help me for this journey. So, when she said Radha Muralidhar watched us, listen, it was just me. And also, stay with me. Have you seen like Mowgli, where he was raised by the wolves? It's going to come together. So, like Mowgli was a human, but he was raised with the wolves, so he thought he was a wolf also. So because there were no other like little people or kids, like kids recognize kids, cats recognize cats, dogs recognize dogs. I didn't recognize I was a kid because I didn't see no other kids. So for me, nobody ever told me like I was a kid or these are older people. I could just see, like I'm just looking. And also like I never looked at myself, so Mata never put me in front of a mirror. I didn't know what I looked like for a long time, probably until I was like 7. I never knew what I looked like, but I was just existing. And so I'm walking around the temple and I'm just doing what everybody else is doing. I go to Kirtan, I'm in there dancing with people dance with me. I also don't know the word midget, so I don't think I'm a little person or like a small. I'm just existing. So I'm trying to give you the vision of what I'm going through in life. So, but there were rules. And this, my mom, I know this is my mom, but when I was little, I didn't know this was my mother. Nobody came and told me like, this is your mom. It was just the lady in the kitchen. She was a lady in the kitchen that when I needed something, like I knew where to go, but she also trained me, when you need to sleep, this is the room you sleep in. When you need to eat, the Prashadam hall is upstairs. You can play outside, but don't go past this line. And that was it. If you want to watch television, that's there, which we'll talk about that also. Anyway, so these details are important. I'm a little nervous. But one day, Mata comes and she tells me to come over, and she said, their devotees are coming from New Vrindavan. Okay, they come all the time. Like, why is it so special this time? But she said, they're bringing a dog. And I'm like, what the hell is a dog? And at this point, I'm probably 5. I've only seen a cat, because we had cats in the temple, and I could see the birds outside. These are the only animals that I ever know about. So she's like, a dog is coming. And I'm like, what's a dog? I have no idea what it looks like or any of those things. So when Kirtananda and the whole crew pile and come, it's just a whole bunch of brahmacharis. I don't know exactly who's there, except for one person I know is there. Stay with me. So we're on the porch. We have this long driveway that comes up. We have this big, huge, like garage, veranda where the cars come underneath there. And you walk up the steps and it's a long porch. So we're on the porch waiting with flowers and garlands, but I'm just trying to see the dog, like, forget the people. So Mata's coming, they're getting out the car. She's like, come on, put your head down, off your businesses. Mind you, I want to see the dog. I can't look at it with my head down. So we get on the porch, and I'm sitting there with my head like this, because I need to see. But my head is like where you can just see feet, like you just got your head up, like you can see the feet walking by. So I'm just like looking, and so I see devotees coming. I see a lot of, it's just all orange. coming with dundas and everything. And closer to the back, Kirtan is coming, and I see the dog. I'm like, oh my God, that must be the dog. So I'm looking for the dog, and then I'm just looking. I'm like, it's hairy, this and that. But as we go by, there was this one orange that goes by, and I didn't see any feet. So I'll tell you, I'm not crazy. I did not see feet. So I'm looking like, well, who is this person with no feet? So I look up, but it's from the back. So I don't see the face. I have no idea who it is. But from the back, I saw their Sika. Now, if anybody knows His Holiness Radha Maharaj from back in the day or any time, you know that's Sika at anybody. So in my mind, I'm like, I need to see the man that didn't have no feet. So we go back in, Kirtan's there, and they also would encourage me to like pass around the ghee lamp, pass around the flower, like take it around. So when I get the flower, I'm little. So Maharaj comes and he puts his head down, and I saw the Sika, so now I see the face with the Sika. I said, this is the guy that didn't have any feet. He didn't have no feet. So, going back to my spiritual life where Krishna hooks you, from that moment, in my mind, I said, I have to find the man that didn't have feet. I said, I'm going to watch him. I said, and for the rest of my life, I'm going to try to see if his feet ever disappear again. So, Maharaj, forgive me, but in my mind, I wasn't coming to class because I was like excited to hear class. Because I started following Maharaj probably when I was like 14 years old. I used to travel to New Vrindavan and go to his classes, but I was in class like, and I was woke, so unlike Nigadita, I wasn't falling asleep in class because I was watching to see if Maharaj's feet would disappear. So for years, that's how I used to hear Maharaj's classes all the time. I would follow him, I would go different places and look for him. But for me, it was just, I had an ulterior motive. I just wanted to see if his feet would just disappear again. So, moving forward, but going backwards. So going back to Radharani, but keep that in mind, okay? So don't forget that part. That's a big part of moving forward. Right, so going back, some of the issues that I used to have with Radharani, now mind you, I don't know where the hell this came from. But maybe I was just born a demon. So you know how sometimes where you have like, the demons, most of the time you're devotees, but I don't know about if that's my case. But they have to be in a particular situation, and it may seem like horrible, like how could you do that to Krishna? How could you say those words to Krishna? How could you talk, Shishipal? How could you do that? They gotta be great, well, anyway, I'm not. But my true feelings at the time were, I don't know, for some reason, like Radharani, I just felt like, why do you always get to be next to Krishna all the time? So what I used to do, forgive me, but I used to stand in between the deities, and I used to turn my back to her like this, and I used to like grab Muralidhar by the head and just be like, and I would just hold him, and like she was behind me, and I'm just like, you need to share. But I was probably like 5 years old with these thoughts. Now, I don't know where they came from, but I was just for some reason jealous that she, and mind you, I used to call her she. Let's keep that in mind. I called her she because I just we wasn't rocking. So moving forward, it's gonna all come together at the end. I hope you guys enjoy it. So, what happened was, my older sister Devaki and my brother, they went to Gurukul in New Vrindavan. For some lucky reason, I would say for me, I didn't go to Gurukul. And I said, don't do that. I didn't go to Gurukul. Maybe I was just, I don't know, stubborn, very stubborn. But at some point, maybe the government, like I said, don't call children's services. The government at some point must have came and she got in trouble, like, you got to put her in school, so I'll go to public school. So now mind you, when I'm in public school, so you heard my Jayashree say when I was little, she saw Madan and Prashangi. Want to tell you my name was Radha Madan Mohan. But nobody called me Radha Madan Mohan, it was just Madan, right? That's all I knew. So going to school first day. Teacher says, so when you hear your name, raise your hand. So I'm sitting there, they're calling all these names. And mind you, I don't even know my last name at the time, but anyway, that's how uneducated I was with a lot of stuff. It was just, I was thrown in the temple, Mata was in the kitchen, nobody was with me but Muralidhar, and now I had to learn everything on my own. So my first day of school, they said, raise your hand when we call your name. So I'm sitting there, all I'm ready to listen for is Madame. But my last name is Smith, so it comes sometime later. So I hear Radha Smith. You know, we're looking around like, okay, maybe she's not here. Like, where are you gonna call my name, right? Radha Smith. And then she comes over to me and she says, don't you hear me calling your name? I'm like, no. I said, my name is Madame. And she said, we're gonna go to the office. Why are you misbehaving on the first day? Like, you just got here. And I'm like, but you didn't call my name. And so she like, you know, goes to, this is when they used to kabuki you in school too. Like, they can give you a spanking, but she did it, but she wanted to because she said I was being smart. I ain't gonna say what I said after that. But anyway, going to the office. So they get us on the phone, and they call her, and there says, you know, yes, Miss Smith, you know, we have Radha here, and she's not cooperating. We called her name, and she wouldn't answer. Mata was like, oh, I never told her her name was Radha. So, and they have it on speaker, so I can hear what my mom is saying. And then my teacher just looked at me like, what you mean? She don't know her name is Radha. Anyway, I hear it, so she's like, well, that's you? Okay, go back. And I remember clearly, I'm like, Radha? Like, I don't want that name. Like, why would you call me that? I don't want to be called Radha. So, me and Mata, we go home and, why would you call me? I don't want to be called that. That's her name. That's her. So, moving forward, I would tell people, like, if you really know me, don't call me Radha. Like, people that don't know me, I'll feel like you're my enemy because you don't know me for real. And so if you call me Radha, I'll feel like we weren't friends. But if you call me Madame, then you know me, right? So I had to live with this for some time, right? So, moving forward. Moving forward, so still following Radhanath Maharaj, I'm a very Kirtanic. I love Kirtan, right? So this was some time. Anyway, moving forward, we moved to Puerto Rico. Maharaj comes, he visits Puerto Rico at the time of the Jaishree living there. You know, Malati Prabhu, they visit. So many devotees coming through. You know, Rakersha Pandit was the temple president at the time. Love him. He was another part of my spiritualness. But what happened was, for some reason, Mother Jaishree, Malati Prabhu, Rakersha Pandit, Mata, and like 3 other people were like, you need to be initiated. I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't want to be initiated. But they all recommended me, and they're just like, no. So they went without my permission or without my knowledge. And they went and spoke to Maharaj and was telling him, you know, all this stuff. So one day, I get a summons to come in a room. So there's Rakersha Pandit and Maharaj in a room. At this time, I just had my youngest daughter. She's like 7 months old. Whatever. So I take her, we go in the room, we sit down. I don't even know what I'm in the room for. So I'm just sitting down, I'm just thinking, you know, Maharaj just wants to say hi. So I'm like, oh my God. And mind you, as long as we've known each other, like I've been so nervous to speak or even like talk to him. And until the last few years, like I can speak a little bit more now. But before, I would just look at him and just laugh. Like that was all I could do, was look at Maharaj and just laugh. But I just love him to death. But moving forward. So we get into the room, and Maharaj, you know, Rakersha Pandit's sitting there, and then he starts telling me like, oh, well, these people, you know, recommend you for initiation. You know, you've been here doing service for some time. I used to cook breakfast for 60 devotees every morning by myself, 7, 8 preparations, you know, for years, and, you know, Mangalartik every single day. It was wonderful. If you never had that experience of living in a temple, go do it. But anyway, so I'm just sitting there listening, and then Maharaj just starts speaking. And the first thing he says to me, he goes, Madame, like, how long have I known you? And I'm thinking like, I don't want to get the answer wrong. Like, I don't know. So I just guessed. I was like, at least as a little kid. And then he said, no, I've known you since you were a baby. I said, oh, okay. You know, like, okay. So he said he's known me as long as I was a baby. I said, oh, okay. So I felt like, okay. Then moving forward from that, he just goes into, he said, listen, you know, I'm here for you. You know, we'll get initiated, not here initiated. I'm like, oh my God, why would you say that? I'm like, I don't want to be initiated. Like, why are people doing this to listen, let me explain why though. I love Krishna, love Kirtan, love the devotees, love the process. You know, I've been here almost, I can touch 50, almost 50 years. But I just felt like in my mind, I used to see people get initiated or just see people just doing stuff. I guess I was judging. But I'm like, but what if I can't do it? You know, like what if I can't hold up to the principles or the, you know, chanting my rounds, or I was like, I don't, and you hear like the karma that comes to what you give to your spiritual master if you don't follow it properly. And I'm like, I don't want to do that to him. You know, I mean, not that I would just try to do it, but what if I make a mistake? I didn't want to make a mistake. If I did it, I felt like I need to be perfect, focused, probably turn into a brahmacharini living in a temple with no responsibilities, and maybe I can focus. I said, you know what? Maybe when I hit 50, I can probably commit to being initiated, you know? But I was like, in my mind, like, Lord, but I need him to be here because that's the only person I'm going to be initiated by, because he didn't have no feet, remember? So I had to, like, that is who is going to initiate me. So he has to be around when I'm still 50, moving forward. So after Marge left, no problem, because in my mind, I'm waiting until I'm 50. Like, he told me what to be initiated, but at the time, I just felt like you already accept me. I don't care if it's in this lifetime, the next lifetime. You already have accepted me. I don't need a ceremony right now because I need to be serious, right? So, moving forward. But it all ties back to Radha writing, so hold on. So at some point, the next year, March comes back and he visits Puerto Rico again. And Prakrsha Pandit gives me a phone call and he says, you know, Madame, March said he'll initiate you. I said, yeah, right. I'm not doing that. Tell him no. Like, I'm not doing it. So we hang up. I don't get initiated. This is 2001. 2001. This was 2001. Got my first phone call. Marge said he'll do it in Puerto Rico. I said, no, I'm good. So the next year, 2002 comes. I kind of hear some stuff like, Marge said he'll initiate you. I just hung up the phone that time. The Prakrsha Pandit, stop. I don't want to do that. Stop asking me. So 2003 comes. This is where the magic extra started. I just was like, okay, Lord. So one day, and let me tell you how slick I thought I was. Malati, you never heard this before, but this was between me and you. So, I get a phone call. It's Malati Prabhu. She calls me, she's in Vrindavan. She gets on the phone, I'm in Puerto Rico. She says, Marge said he wants you here. In 3 days, you're getting initiated. I'm like, what? So I hang up. I'm miles away. How do I get out? My intelligence works magic, right? So I'm like, how do I get out of this? I said, you know what? I said, well, I don't have any money to come. I can't buy a plane ticket in 3 days. You know how expensive that trip is going to be? She said, don't worry, the ticket is already bought. I'm like, I said, the ticket is already bought. I said, you know what? We'll see, because on the ticket, she don't know my real name. So maybe she put Madame Smith, and so when I get to the airport, I got Radha Smith, so it's not going to match up, so they won't let me on the plane, right? So that was what I was thinking. I wouldn't get there because they got the wrong name. So anyway, she must have spoke to Mata or somebody because they had the right name. So I get to the airport. When I get to the airport, I'm just like, arms open. I have nothing. I'm just going with nothing. So when I get there, they tell me, oh, I'm like, who's going to pick me up from the airport? So it's the first time I met Mother Gopa. They just, listen, I don't know who did it. All the arrangements were made. Mara said, get here. Malati called me with a phone call. I get to the airport. Mother Gopa picks me up. She drops me off at Mother Jayashree's house. So I'm at Mother Jayashree's house, freaking out a little bit, but I probably didn't show her that. And I'm just like, I don't have a sari. I don't have any neck beads. I don't have no chopper beads. Oh, don't worry. Mother Jayashree goes and she brings me a sari. She brings me neck beads. She gets me the chopper beads, and I'm just like, so the initiation is the next morning. And I'm like, oh, I don't even know what to do. And then I got a little sad because my mom wasn't there. Nobody was there. And I'm just like, oh, Krishna. Anyway, the next morning comes. They tell us disciple meeting, you know, go there. The disciples are going to meet. They're going to tell you what to do, all that stuff, right? So I'm sitting there, and I have my beads, so I forgot who it is. But I give him the beads, and he says, oh, you go take these to Marge. I'm like, oh, you want me to come by myself and take them to him? No, I can't do it. So Marge is back in room 7, you know, in Vrindavan, going back to the back. So I go back there, knock on the door. Some other devotee was in there, so I bend down off my base and I hand Marge my beads. Oh, one thing they told me to do, make sure you write your full name on the beads before you give them to Marge. So I write Radha Madan Mohan, reluctantly, Radha Madan Mohan on the beads. And so when I pass these beads to Marge, I'm getting ready to walk out the room and he stops me and he says, hold on. He said, your name is Radha Madan Mohan? And I'm like, yes. And he says, this changes everything. I don't know what that meant, but I guess whatever name he had for me before, it got switched around. So I come back out. When we come back out, we're sitting there, everything's getting ready to start, and the next thing you know, the doors fly open. Here comes Mata, and my sister, Krishnagi Saki, she came, and Mother Krishnandini came, and some devote, Mother Ishapanishad came, so I had a crew of people that we all lived in Puerto Rico, so they were in Gitanagri, and Bhakti Maharaj was giving initiations in Gitanagri, but somehow they made it to New Vrindavan in time for my initiation, so I was very happy about that. It's almost over, stay with me. So moving forward, then, everybody's getting their names, whatever. Mine was almost close to the end. Maybe, I don't know. But mine was closer to the end. So, Marge calls me up. I'm super nervous. And I'm just like, am I really going through with this? Like, Krishna, help me. I don't want to lie. If he asks me, what is this and that, like, I'm really about to do this, right? So, I said, I guess. So he calls me up. And then he goes, he calls up Mata. He calls up my family to come over, then he just starts speaking, some things about my family. And then he goes and he looks at me and he says, how long have I known you? Mind you, I got it right this time, right? So I said, ever since I was a baby? He said, no. He said, I knew you before you were born. And I was like, my mouth was just open. So whatever the relationship is, me and Marge have, it goes way back. So that was there. So now, at the initiation, he calls me up, asks me all the principles. Oh, this was another big thing, like I said, going back to if I could do it. I was never nervous about not being able to eat meat. I wasn't nervous about no illicit sex. Definitely wasn't nervous about no intoxications because, my father, he had some issues and he always asked me, never do drugs. So I've been drug-free my whole life, almost 50 years, right? So that was a promise to my dad I made a long time ago, but the one that bothered me was no gambling. Not that I sit around and play cards and put all this money down. It was just, for me, it wasn't just money, no gambling. It was like your spiritual life, no gambling. Not being able to commit to making certain decisions with your spiritual life. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to do. So that one for me was the one I was like, how do I know if I'm gambling or doing this or doing that? That was the one I felt like I might not be able to hold up to that. So that was the one. So moving forward, that was my initiation. So when he calls me and he gives me my name, he says, Radha Vijay. Okay. Listen, at this point in time, how old was I when I got initiated? It was 2003. I probably was 22, 23 years old. So that was almost 25 years ago. So that was, in my spirit at this time, I have already begged Radharani for forgiveness. Different stages, you have different mentalities. So I had come to the Bhakti Center, well, it was a sanctuary at the time. I came here before I was initiated, and I felt like I've already made up with her. So I went over to her, and I was just like, I don't know what the hell I was thinking as a little kid. I don't know why I thought, Muralidhar was mine, or, I'm sorry, So once I got my name, Radha Vijay, I'm like, yes, Radharani is always victorious. She is going to win at all costs. You can think this, that, she ain't going nowhere. Ain't nobody taking her over. Nobody's going to take Radharani's place, right? And it's Radha Vijay Devi Dasi. You better learn to get along with Radharani because Your spiritual life ain't going nowhere. If you think you don't have to serve her to get to Krishna, you can't just get to Krishna without going to Radharani first, right? So, my beloved spiritual master and Radharani must be really good friends also. He knew exactly what name to give me to help me with those, those thoughts that I went through with her. And Mars, thank you. I don't know, thank you for that name. And what's funny is a lot of people ask me, why not Vijay Radha, like Vijay Radha? And I'm like, well, you put Radha Vijay first. So, and also people are still saying Radha first. So, mind you, it's a service that I go through and I adore all the time I hear a name. So, don't shorten it. Just call me Radha Vijay because it helps me in my spiritual life when I hear those things. Are we stopping here?
This is perfect. Where to go? Yeah, it's done. This is Kirtan.
Okay, I'm almost done. So, because I have to go back to me watching Marge and I'm trying to see if his feet ever disappeared again. So something even more amazing happened. And like I said, I sit back and I witness a lot of magic, is what I call it. You just have to be open to knowing and seeing and feeling it. So I got a lot of magic stories, but this one kind of blew me away. So a few years back, we were in India. Anybody here ever been to Eco Village? Okay, mind you, I went one time. We were there for about, 4 or 5 days. And I don't know a map of it or how it's laid out, but Marsh, you maybe can explain this, but I can't. And so like I said, maybe I'm crazy, and when I tell the story, maybe you could be like, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what happened. So there was a yatra where one devotee was taking us, around to the Radha Madan Mohan temple, just the different temples, whatever. So we were staying at the hotel by where the Prashadam outside area is. I don't know what they're all called. But we were staying there, and then we had to drive these little rickshaw, like little golf carts all the way to the temple. So there was probably 15 of us that went. So we got there, and then, everybody had their stuff. I didn't have any agenda. I'm just going with whatever we're doing, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't have anything extra I was trying to see or go or be a part of. So when we got there, every 20 minutes, somebody from the group was going away. So Manta, she had to, what did you have to go do? Okay, listen to this. Manta was going to meet a devotee who was getting ready to have a grain ceremony that Marge was going to feed this baby some, sweet rice. So Marge was supposed to be back where we first started. So Mata left. Mata, Krishangi, and another devotee, they left. So now there's, 12 of us. We're walking around, they're showing us stuff. There's some other devotees like, we need to go get massages. So 4 or 5 devotees leave, they go get massages. So me and my daughter, this one's my oldest daughter, Michelle, she's there with me. So, we're just there for the ride. So we get to the point where there's just me, myself, my daughter, another devotee lady from India, originally from Russia. She was a rascal, but I'm glad she was a rascal. So, no, those go back into those pastimes where, Kaike had to do something to make this happen, like how all those things happen. So she was taking pictures at the Radha Madan temple, and they asked her not to do that. And every time the guy walked up a little bit, she pulled her camera back out and keep taking pictures. And I'm looking like, she gonna get us in trouble. I'm not trying to hang with her. So whoever the guy was came back around, and he was Chaz, getting on her, you gotta stop taking pictures, da, da, da. And she's just basically I can do what I wanna do. I looked at Michelle, I said, you know what? I went over to the guy, I said, listen, you don't have to keep doing this tour for me and my daughter. Me and her, we about to leave. So if you wanna continue the tour with her, that's y'all business. But you don't have to be obligated for the tour because now it's just 3 of us. And she's being a rascal, and I don't wanna be a part of the situation, so I'm just gonna go back to the hotel. So, this is the magic. Never been to Eco Village. It's my 2nd day there. So I'm like, oh my God, how do we get back? I said, I don't know where the hell we at. I said, Krishna, I said, I don't know where to go. I said, we need somebody to show us how to get back to the hotel. Mars pops out of a bush. he just came out the bush, and me and Michelle looked, and I was like, there's Marsh. So we go down, put on our businesses, and next thing you know, he was standing right there. Yeah, he had feet. The feet was there. So we offer our businesses. You know, I look up, the feet are there, and then we stand up, and we tell Marge, we were doing whatever we were doing. We had a little conversation, keep that exclusive. And then I was just like, Marge, but we're lost. We don't know how to get back to the hotel. He looked around and he said, just go down that hill. I said, go down the hill? So before I could turn around to say, well, then where do we go? Marge was gone. He popped out the bush. We offered our businesses. He told us, go down. He pointed, go down the hill. So I turned around to look to see the direction. When I turned back around to say, but then where did we go? Marge was already gone. So me and Michelle was looking at each other like, did he just disappear? I said, oh, it's too much. So she was able to, hold on, I'm not done with that part. I'm not done with the rest of the story. So I think Marge time travels, I don't know. But I think he can just warp into like different places whenever he desires. I'm just gonna claim that in front of the Lord today. But what happened was, we started walking. So mind you, this goes into the demographics of Eco Village. I don't know how it's set up, but I remember when we got on that rickshaw to go to Radha, Madame Mohan, it was like 10, 15-minute drive. The hill he told us to go down, we walked down the hill, the hotel was right there. I was like, hold on. I remember, we're about to run Madame Mohan Temple because the girl's taking pictures. So we were over there, I'm lost. Mara said, walk down the hill. The hill was about 2-3 minutes, not even 2-3 minutes, it was like 1-minute walk, like right down the hill. We walked straight down the hill. And next thing you know, the hotel's here, the Prashadam area's over there, and we looked around like, well, if it was that close, why we couldn't just walk up the hill to get there instead of taking those rickshaws 15-20 minutes? Why we just didn't walk up the hill to get over there? So I don't know if Radha Mohan Temple is that close, right there by those hotels in Eco Village, Marge. I don't know if it's that close or not, but that was what happened. Do you know Ananta? Marge, is it that close? Is the temple, Radha Mohan Temple, right there behind the hotel? So that was my more recent experience on, I'll throw the feet in there, but at this moment, Marge disappeared completely and sent us through time travel and directed us to go down the hill, and you'll be back like where you need to go, just go down the hill when you were there. So Marge is magical, and he's amazing, and for some reason I have been attracted to this man and his feet and his classes and his well-being and just everything about him since I was little. So when they say Krishna has his way of hooking you or bringing you to him, you just never know what he's going to use. He can use no feet, he can use prashadam, he can use kirtans, he can use anything, to bring you to Krishna. So I feel absolutely fortunate enough to be born in Cleveland, which is funny because I should have been born in LA. Monty lived in LA, she was 8.5 months pregnant with me, and then she ended up moving to Cleveland, so I was born in Cleveland, back to Cleveland. But I just want to thank all the devotees for this wonderful program, especially the Radha. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marge, for blessing and putting the thought in Monty's head to push the devotees to put the program on, because she's like, we got 150 in the Muralidhar Festival. And so also another thing, I want to thank my mom, because over the years I have learned that when this woman speaks some things sometimes, they come into existence. So when you say or witness the magic, I've witnessed a lot of magic in my lifetime. And I want to thank you for you and Taliban Das for doing your devotional service to have me here. Family and all the kids that you have. And thank you, Monty Prabhu and Mother Shri Unity Dita for being, examples and, sticking around through all of everything that's been happening. Because, we're in a material world. We're trying to get out of here in a good way. But don't go too fast. Don't listen. Recently, I lost my sister, Prashanti Saki. And Well, I have to tell the pastime on her behalf because I know she will love it. Real little person, you know, she was there. Now mind you, I'm about 3 years older than her. So if I'm 5, she's like 1. So, but when she got a little older, there was one particular movie that she loved to watch. It was Gopal Krishna. And as a little kid, she used to sit there. So if you ever, anybody seen that movie? Y'all seen Gopal Krishna? So you know that one scene where Krishna's leaving for Mathura and Radha's standing there and he's leaving her and she can't come. And he turns around and looks at her and gives her his flute and all that stuff. My sister used to sit there and start crying every single time that part would come on. And we were little, so I'm looking at her like, you don't even know him. And why are you crying? But like every time she would just sit there and just tears would just come down her face. And I used to, and my feelings, I hated when she did that. I used to be like, why do you do that? Stop faking. Stop crying. You don't even know him like that. You know, you haven't been there. You're not running around and you like, what are you crying for? But as we got older, I just understood that her heart and her attachments to Krishna and her emotions were very real. You know, so Krishna, I'm sorry for that, but you used to piss me off when you did that. But I'm over it now, and watching her later in life, she's a very emotional person. You know, so she genuinely loved Krishna very, very much. And so as I got older, I used to sit and watch and was like, this girl, you know, I feel like she probably came from the spiritual worlds because of stuff that she used to do. Like, I'm not super into, like, I can't quote all the Bhagavatams and I can't quote all the stories. But this girl's memory and her mind when it came to Krishna pastimes, she could sit there with you for hours and tell you all the details. And she would just get so, like, enamored in the pastimes of Krishna. And just for that, I know Krishna, and, you know, Radha Muralidhar is looking out for her because she just loved it so, so much. So I just wanted to share that pastime on behalf of Krishna Misaki because she would have loved to have been here today personally and tell you, you know, the few things that she did in Cleveland because, I mean, she wasn't there that long because, you know, we didn't have the temple that long. You know, I mean, when I go back and think about it, when they even asked us to come here, and they said share pastimes of Radha Muralidhar, I'm like, Mata, we didn't have them that long. I'm like, they've been in New York way longer than us. Like, I want to hear the pastimes in New York. You know, they've been with those deities for a long time. I said, we just had a short time with them, you know, and whatever that love that we have, I'm sure theirs is like, psh, off the water, you know. I love internet. I love Instagram because I get to watch devotional service on the computers. I'm not really a personable person. I can be, but I'm not. And I'm not because whatever this love and separation Krishna has, I know I'm not a gopi. I'm not going back nowhere to the spiritual worlds. I'm not going to be a gopi. I don't even know if I'm going to be a das anudas to the gopis because I don't understand how they... I don't understand. I don't understand how they're okay with loving someone or something so much, but it not being with you and that making it more sweet. I'm never going to understand that. I hear it, but I don't like it. I don't like being in separation of people. So for me, the relationships that I have, I hold them very dear to my heart. But also, if I'm not as close with you, or I don't speak to me, the way that I deal with separation is to already feel like you're gone. Because then it's easier for me, like if you were to pass away, because I'm not with you all the time anyway. So I love a lot of y'all, you know, Hari, like, I love you, but I need to deal with it. And if you leave me, because you're not physically with me, I can tolerate and deal with life. You know, I don't want to be, you know, what's his name? Who was smashing their heads every time somebody left?
Narottam Das.
Narottam Das Thakur. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be bashing my head every day because this buddy left, that buddy left, you know, all the time. So I have to protect this little tiny heart I got because it will explode if I become too attached to people physically. So forgive me if you don't see me physically too much and if I don't reach out to you too much because that love thing is I don't know about y'all, but for me it's very serious. It hurts. And I don't want to be crying every day, all day, you know? So out of Krishna, Lord, Muralidhar, please help and protect everybody's hearts, but specifically mine, because mine is very sensitive. Listen, sometimes you gotta claim stuff for yourself, so I'm gonna claim it in front of the Lord, like, please protect my heart. from these love and separation relationships but I think I've been trained up for that because like I said, when I was little, it was just me. And so I feel like I've been abandoned in a way most of my life. People I care about, Mara, she doesn't live right next to me. My dad, he was always out preaching and I love him for that because we wouldn't be here without Taliban dots. But I didn't get to be with my father all the time, so as you get older, this one goes, that one goes, like all these people, they go. And I've never been, taught or coached on how to deal with separation or grief or any of those things. So for me, I've had to figure it out myself. And that's how I deal with not being around people. So mind you, I'm thinking about y'all all the time, but in my mind, because like I say, life happens and the material world is, I don't even know if it's crucial. We just don't understand that it's, what's the word? We just don't understand it. Well, some of y'all, I don't understand. I mean, I feel like I understand, like we're here, like I said, changing clothes, but you still have your attachments. You're still attached to these bodies in some kind of way when people pass and go. But that's even in the spiritual world, though, because, Tom he's banging his head and crying because they left. So those feelings of, being able to care about devotees and people is real. And somehow we have some of that here in this material world, that we care and are attached to people. So when they go, we have this stuff. But I don't like the way it feels. I don't. So thank you very much for tolerating me. I hope that the story connected in all spots. Going back to Radha is always victorious. My spiritual master, I had to find him, no feet. I had to find him in order to get initiated, in order to be cool. And me and Radha got back together. So that's how it all happened.
Radha Vijay Devi Ki
Jai!
Unbelievable. Oh,
She is the empress of the Muralidhar Fair.
Yes.
Okay. And then you brought us into love and separation. Truly, thank you. So we'll have you lead the Nrsingadev prayers. And yes, yeah. Mother Kamagiri, can you lead us in some kirtan before the Nrsingadev prayers?
Haribol.
Ananta's ready to, that's it. So the program right now is we're going to do just a few minutes of kirtan. 1 o'clock, the prasadam is going to be served. Disciples, we can go down to the second floor. Everybody else will have that as well on the second floor. So this will continue. And 3 o'clock kirtan begins again, and then 3:30, we can hear the New Vrindavan to the Greenpoint pastimes. Okay, so we'll start then, and we'll get into New Vrindavan to Greenpoint pastimes, and then we'll continue again in the evening. So, Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Hari Gaura Bhattacharya Jai Muralidhar.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I once heard, like I said, I might be crazy, so maybe I'm wrong, but I heard that the safest place in all three worlds is in the middle of Kirtan. So, if you don't have an instrument and you can be a little rhythmic, what's the word? Rhythmic. We have our hands. I also heard when you're chanting and clapping with your hands, it helps in your spiritual life and it may change your destination. So we always have our hands. So at some point you can join in and clap. And also, what I've realized, and another instruction I've gotten from my wonderful spiritual master, is always be enthusiastic. Bring the utsaha wherever you go. So I try to do that. If you don't like it, you can talk to him about that. So that was a personal instruction he gave me many years ago. So if you see me always a little extra, it's for my spiritual master telling me to be that way. So we're going to do the Sringade prayers here. If there's anything or anybody or anyone that you may want to, extra take in the heart for the Lord's protection, you can do that. So we'll sing this in Shringa prayer. It's a little extra because I'm a little extra. Namaste Narashinghaya. Namaste Narashinghaya. Namaste Narashinghaya. Namaste Narashinghaya. Halad halad adayine. Halad adayine. Halad halad adayine.
Prasadam ki jai. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Did you say the Empress?
Oh, no.
The Empress. The Empress of Michigan Affairs. Thank you. We have prasad for all the devotees, second floor. Srila Prabhupada disciples, please come join us on 2E. Everybody else will be in 2W. So please go and have some prasad. We'll be right back here at 3 o'clock. That's an hour and a half from now. Starting the Kirtan 3:30, Nitudita, you're on for the transition from Cleveland to New Brindavan to Greenpoint. Hare Krishna.